Hello and welcome to Getter Farms. We're back with another episode of Farmville, North Carolina, and today we are, we're going to be getting into some different things. Just taking a look at our fields here with precision farming now that we're all done with planting, and it looks like we have almost maxed out our yield potential here. We're at 123% out of 125%. If you look down in the lower right hand corner, we've got our pH and nitrogen levels set to perfect. And over here, it's looking about the same, which is awesome. And then you can see in the field info section that we do have weeds growing, so we'll need to take care of that at some point during the year. And it says we need rolling. And that's something that I haven't done a whole lot of. And so we saw the neighbors sitting out here using this really big rolling rig on one of their fields. And we'd love to try it out. So we went over there and asked them if we could hit one of our fields with this, test it out, see if this is something that we'd want to get into. Now, obviously, this is a much bigger setup than we'd need. However, this is what he was running with, and he was kind enough to let us give this a shot. So we're going to take this big 5-plex Mandinko roller out here and attempt to roll our cornfields. Now, a lot of times I've seen guys kind of skip out on rolling the cornfields because you're not going to get that low with the header. It just really depends on the soil. But I have seen some guys out rolling cornfields, and so we're going to give it a shot. I thought it'd be kind of fun to play around with, and we'll see how it goes here. So I'm going to get pulled out here, and I think what we're going to do is take this headland pass down to start with. Now, this is a monster of a machine, so I'm not quite sure how wide this is going to end up being. We'll get it unfolded here and take a look. There we go. And this is going to probably take me just a couple minutes to get used to the full operation of this thing. And it looks like it's going to completely wipe out our planted texture and replace it with this rolled texture. So that we know where we've gone. Well, that's alright. Should work out pretty good. And we can get going a pretty good clip with this. 12 miles an hour is pretty good. So this isn't going to take but a minute with such a wide piece of equipment here. And we're not going to try and get super perfect here. Now, this is corn, so once we get on the up and down rows, I'm going to want to stay between the rows here. Thankfully, this is a nice row crop version of the Steiger here, the narrow frame Steiger by Carl Farms. Absolutely love the feature function on these Carl Farms Steigers that he puts out. He does an awesome job, and I know he's got versions of the Steiger coming out on the Mod Hub soon that should also have the real dashboard stuff that I demoed, man, a few months back with Perma's modding here. So we'll have to check those out once it comes out. And honestly, I guess I've probably got the version that has the real dashboard sitting around here since I did the demo video for it a few months back that we could be using. We just didn't have a need to get one of these big Steigers on this farm, so we need to get a new playthrough going here at some point that has some bigger equipment in it. I feel like I haven't done a large equipment series in Farm Sim 22, at least not a full series. So I've been talking to some of my Discord staff team members as well as some of the members about getting back into doing another series with some larger equipment here soon, as well as we need to get back to live streaming, and I would really like to try and get both of those going here before the end of the month, in the month of October here when we're recording this video. And so we've been away from the channel for a few months, and now for the last several days, or several weeks I should say, we've managed to stick to a fairly consistent schedule. I feel confident in saying that I think we can stick to a 3 videos a week schedule at this point, and then hopefully we'll also be able to pick up live streaming again here in the very near future. We've been away from it for a little bit, just getting the kids going on school, and everything's being just so busy here as we wrapped up summer and started shifting back into our I guess less hectic in some ways school time schedule with the kids. And that's what's allowed me to get back to a normal content creation schedule here. But picking up live streams and stuff like that has been a challenge because we've been busy in the evenings with after school activities and such. But hopefully we're getting back to things now, and I'll pick up live streaming again in the next week or two. So stay tuned for some announcements about that. I've been not doing a great job of staying on top of social media posting, so I will try and make a few more posts on Facebook, maybe some YouTube comments as well, just to let you guys know what's coming from a schedule perspective. But I do think we're going to be sticking to the Monday, Wednesday, Saturday schedule for videos that we've gotten into here. And realistically, I probably don't need to lift this roller up when I'm doing the turnarounds because it lowers so slowly that it took that long to get it dropped back down. So we're going to try and just make the turn without picking it up, I think. I'm not sure what you would normally do, especially with the row crop nature of this particular crop. Now, we are knocking out a large chunk of this field every pass, so I'm not too worried. I think we're gonna be able to tackle the rest of this job in just a few minutes here and jump on over to our other field here and roll that. Now, I'm curious, it looks like rolling only really takes effect in Farm Sim post planting the crop. I know in real life I've seen a lot of farmers that'll roll the field right before planting to kind of smooth that out before you get into the planting. But it looks like here in Farm Sim, because I'm pretty sure my VT tool was set up as a roller, I didn't see that we got that bonus when we hit that other field there. Yeah, that one was saying that it needed rolling as well. As much as I like using larger implements, I have to say this thing is just too big for this little field. We're knocking it out so fast, there's just not enough room to maneuver and turn around with such a big implement. So that's this map is probably not the best map to try out a bunch of these larger equipment mods that I've come across, although we could definitely knock out a bunch of different fields if I had, say, a big X9 or something similar to that. We'd just be able to go field after field after field. Part of me is tempted to actually do something like that and then just start picking up all of these little fields all around the map and see how many of them we could actually knock out and do in a single playthrough here. So I don't know, maybe we will start upgrading to getting some borderline ridiculously sized equipment on this farm as we start making some money. Right now we're not making a lot of money, and you know, it's nice to occasionally borrow some cool equipment like this to do a job and try things out, but we do need to keep buying some of our own equipment here as well. And the lease on borrowing this from the neighbor is going to set us back a few grand, and we'll have to, you know, make up that money somewhere here on the farm. Now, I probably didn't actually need to fold this roller up, given that we were just driving to the other field here, but I was not thinking about that. Now, I was really hoping that this roller would be wide enough to do this whole spot, but apparently not, so we're going to have to take a second pass on the way back here. The trick I'm finding with such a big implement like this is just steering it with the articulated tractor here. I feel like I'm always overcorrecting, and that makes it somewhat difficult to follow the edges and stuff. Not such a problem once you get going on the up and down rows and turning around, but Definitely on the outsides of the field here, I find it a little tricky. And as small as our fields are, we could actually use a little bit bigger equipment on parts of it for sure. I know this job is going a lot faster than it could because we've got this nice wide roller. I could probably get away with a 3-plex roller and be probably just as efficient with this, because then I could put it on a smaller tractor and that would be able to handle some of the turns and headlands and stuff a little bit easier than this big setup does. You know, just looking at the fields, I know you've got the farm sim scaling. We could get away with some bigger equipment, I think. And so we may have to try and do some upgrades here on the farm over the next few episodes. Maybe as we get into fall, we'll look at upgrading our harvest setup. That combine was definitely fun to use last harvest, but it is an older gleaner. Maybe there'll be something a little bit newer, more modern on the market that we can find. One of the things I'm horrible about is keeping an eye on the sales in the store. There's always a bunch of good stuff here at a pretty decent discount. And so we'll just have to check every day, every month in game here and see if we find any good deals that maybe we should be picking up with this farm. Even if the equipment is a little bit larger, we definitely have a few things that we could probably upgrade and have something more modern and better suited for knocking stuff out here pretty quickly. Now, I don't think we'll get a whole lot on a trade-in on that gleaner, but we can probably offset the price of an upgrade if we're catching a good deal on something. Now, I realize I've been making quite a big mess of this field as we've been rolling. Not doing the greatest job at realizing that this is actually corn underneath here, and you'd probably not want to be driving across rows and doing stuff like that, so we're probably making a pretty big mess in this field. Thankfully, Farm Sim is pretty forgiving of stuff like that. I would love to see at some point a version of the game that has more like crop destruction and ground compaction and all of those things worked into the mix, so that as you drive over areas more and more, you suffer from ground compaction in those areas. It'd be, I don't know, really fun to see how that could play out. I don't know. I don't know exactly how you do it, at least with the existing Farm Sim engine, but those kinds of considerations are a lot more what I've seen, you know, a lot of farmers being concerned about, especially when they decide if they're going to do jobs like this or not, because the compaction of driving this machinery over the field and covering a bunch of acres versus the benefit you get from pushing those rocks down. And also, you know, if I'm not mistaken, rollers have some negative effects on the soil quality, at least that top layer, and how the wind and rain erosion plays out on the field. So there's a lot of considerations that go into something like this. But that's about where my personal experience ends. I have not actually ever had to roll a field in real life. I know a few guys that did it. I've seen the equipment up close. I've seen it going out in the field, but I've never actually rolled a field before on my own. So it's a little bit fun to get to play with some of this equipment here in the game. But with that, we've fully rolled both of our fields in not that much time. Probably about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes of actual field time here. So that's pretty fast. Like I said, this piece of equipment just a bit big for what we'd actually need on our own farm. But I'm super excited to have been able to give this a shot. Thankfully, we had the neighbor across the way there that was out in his field with this and was more than happy to let us toss a few dollars his way to get out there and try this out in our fields. If we take a look here now, you can see we no longer have the needs rolling, and our expected yield has jumped up. The extra was at 2 or 3% here to get to the full amount. At least in that field. This field, it's a little bit low. Maybe that's because the weeds are going to be coming through. But either way, we've got rid of the rolling, I don't know, penalty or notification there. So we'll see how this works out. So I'm going to go ahead and get this tractor back over to the neighbor, and then we will check out our animals. So with the rolling done there, we have moved the clock forward to May. We'd spent quite a bit of time in April, and we're going to start out by checking in on the greenhouse here. If we look, we did use up a little bit of water. You can see we are selling all of these products as they get ready. The numbers are jumping up and down there. And so you're noticing that our dollars are changing on a regular basis here. We get a little bit of money from the greenhouse, kind of offsets the operating costs that we have on the farm here. And you can see that our crops have stepped up here, and now our weeds are at a medium level. And so they're recommending that we use a hoe to come through and knock these weeds down. If we let it go a little bit further, we're going to need to use some chemical. So we might have the co-op come in and do some spraying here for us and knock these out in a little bit, or we may look into getting a mechanical solution here. These weeds are still at a small height, so we could technically get a mechanical weeder through here on this field. It's interesting how this field is at small, but the field next to us, the weeds are jumped up to a medium level. So we'll just have to play around with that a little bit and see how it goes. Just kind of checking. Interesting how the fields are different. I guess that's realistic. And then similarly, if we jump in here and take a quick look at our hogs, you can see that we have our original 100 here have now reproduced. We've got a new lot that have just been born here. And then on top of that, we've got that first litter where they're at 66% towards puberty. I think that's one more. I think it's 3 months of puberty. No, it's 6 months. So we've got a little bit to go before these hogs are going to start having babies, but we're at, another 4-month recycle here on these. So we're going to start seeing our slurry production probably kick up pretty quickly here, as well as our food consumption. So I'm a little bit more worried about the food right now than anything else. We've got 68,000 left in there. So we've got at least a couple months. I'm just worried that this is not going to last until we get into the fall here. And I'm kind of curious, do we have enough corn in these two fields to keep those hogs going for another year as they start to grow and expand? So that's another thing we've got to worry about. We may have to look into potentially purchasing one of these other cornfields. This is quite the big lot of land. I don't know if we can afford to buy all 3 of those. There's 2 cornfields in this batch, but again, I don't know if I can afford to buy that big chunk. It's a lot of money. Field 44 would be more doable. I think we could probably get a loan out to do that. But it's some pretty low quality ground. Field 56 likewise is something that we could probably get our hands on for 87,000. So we might have to shop around a little bit, see if we can pick up one of these other cornfields on the map, either 56 or 44. As we get closer to fall, that might be an investment worth making here. But I think for today, since we have been kind of jumping around a little bit, we're going to just top off this water on the greenhouse and take a quick look at the contract list. There's a number of fertilization contracts out there that we could go and run with. I don't know what we're going to jump into here just yet, but we're definitely going to jump into some contracts in our next episode, and maybe we'll figure out this whole weeding situation in next episode as well. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, drop a like. It helps me out immensely. That's all for today. Ketterk out. Go tackle some big fields. Oh my goodness.